Let's now turn over to my guest right here in the studio to do some kind of analysis of the results, of this election and the results we've seen so far. Sitting right here with me is Ken Okolugbo, who is a political analyst and also a PDP member. I also have Achike Trude, who is also a political analyst as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you, Ken. You take a look at this result. Of course, you're a member of the PDP. Know that you'll be happy at the outcome.
Of course, it's very obvious. Kogi has always been a PDP state after 2003. And, I mean, hearing the governor-elect speak, he was very frank. You asked him a very straight and forward question. You haven't been very popular in Kogi state. He basically said, look, it's not because I am not known in Kogi state, but in the political circles, I have not been that popular. This is a man that could tell you that they went on a campaign train. They went to every single local government. And they ended up with the final campaign. That is the one the president attended. And don't forget that the sitting governor is a member of PDP, clearly would support the candidacy of Idris Wada, and has been there for over 8 years. And so that gives you a very big mileage in terms of penetrating the nooks and crannies of the state. And over a period of time, he has sold himself to the people. And there is this thing about when you have followership, when the government is sitting down there and people look at it and say, this is a government we can trust, the party now becomes very important. Because some people could have also gone there, unmindful of the fact that Idris Wada was a candidate, but they were going to vote for the party PDP and not necessarily even for Idris Wada.
Achike, I have to ask you this. You think this is a big boost for the PDP going into next year, where we're going to have a series of elections, even though these elections will not be taking place at the same time, governorship elections now?
Well, some of victories like this have a way of bringing about, it depends on the circumstances and the place, maybe a kind of feel-good, kind of feeling that the party is able to record this kind of success, especially with the fierceness of the opposition that was given to the PDP during this election by former governor, again, Abubakar Audu. And but again, I want to believe that some of the arguments that Ken has made with regards to the kind of work or the work rate that was put into this election by the PDP candidate can also be advanced by even the ACN candidate, that they also visited the nooks and crannies and so on. They work very hard. The stakes are very, very high, and they know, the end result. So I want to believe that both sides are also putting their dint of hard work.
All right, let me just pause you there. I want us to take a look at some figures. Let's look at the total number of registered voters now. The turnout, there we have the slide. The total number of registered voters there you can see is 1,325,272 registered voters for Kogi State. But eventually, how many people came out to vote? 518,949. I mean, this is very worrisome. And there you have the total number of rejected votes. We have it. That's a total number of valid votes cast, I should say, is 484,168. And then you have the rejected votes, and you have the PDP candidates here winning it by over 300,000 votes. And you look at the total number of registered voters. You look at those who actually came out to vote. Would you say this is? I mean, the figures are impressive in terms of turnout.
No, I wouldn't say that. Of course, that brings me back to the election that took place in Anambra State some time ago, the governorship election, where about 20% of the total, people that registered for the election.
Anambra was quite poor, even poorer.
Yes, actually came out to vote, and that was very, very, that was something that did not really go down too well with Nigerians. Yes, I understand the argument that the governor has made again, but again, in any democracy where you have this kind of turnout, is simply indicative of an anomaly within the system. We want to believe that once people realize the importance of government, and once people realize that government has a way of determining their ability to live their daily lives, then they will be very, very much interested in what happens.
This is a clear case of apathy.
No, you can't say it's apathy. It is apathy. No, Achike got it on the spot. I wanted to use Anambra as an example. Obi was elected with less than 100,000 votes. And that's a far cry. Over 1 million Anambranians registered for that election. and it was less than 100,000 votes that made Obi become the governor of Anambra. So looking at Kogi is not. Let us take
a look at the figures again. Yeah, just go on, but I just want to have the figures on.
Yes, if you look at it, it's about 1,300,000 and something thousand. Yes, about 1,325,000.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a registered voters. Over 500,000 people came. To me, I think if you look at the statistics, the turnout was impressive. If you look at the statistics of what happened in the April election, there were some states that were less than 40%. There were less than 30%. And just like Anambra would say,
98%, 99%.
Again, look at the literacy level. Wow. The literacy level. And you also look at the public enlightenment. I mean, INEC also has a duty to play here. Yeah. If INEC did not carry out their public enlightenment...
There wasn't proper enlightenment on this.
So the people might not have known that elections were holding. I'm sure there were some people that wouldn't have known that elections. So it's not it's not the parties you can blame here. It's not the fault of Idris Wada, neither is it the fault of Awudu here. If the people didn't come out, it's because INEC did not give enough public enlightenment. And that tells you that the people that came out were those who were interested in knowing who their governor is going to be. And in this case, it was Idris Wada they were interested in.
We can actually excuse this because you wouldn't expect the entire number of registered voters to come out. We've always seen this, not just in Nigeria, you see it elsewhere.
It will not be normal. But though there's a point I want to make. Again, I think since the stakes are higher with regards to the contending political gladiators and their political parties, they have to do the job of getting the voters out to come and vote. You understand? Because the ability to actually win an election depends on the ability to campaign properly. I would agree with Ken really that maybe at the level of enlightenment and so on, INEC did not do a very good job. Again, and then of course the National Orientation Commission is also involved in matters like this. I think that figure represents about 45% of the total voting population. But one thing that will worry me about this data that you also showed is the fact that of about 34,000 votes were invalid. That should represent about 8% of the total number of votes counts, and I think that is very significant.
It has to do with the issue of literacy.
I think it has to do with the issue of literacy because a lot of people just
maybe not proper education provided as to how to
top print and vote. But there's another thing I want to point out. I noticed that when Dino Melaye was actually rejecting the results, he didn't talk about violence. If you notice, he didn't talk about people snatching ballot boxes. Yes, he talked about...
Even though there was a case of ballot box snatching in one...
Of course, you would always have such cases, but they are very negligible. He said where he voted, there was no policeman there. But he didn't say ballot boxes were snatched. He only said that there was a scientific approach to the change of figures. What I'm saying here is that we are actually going through a dangerous trend in this country, whereby there is no election results that will ever be accepted. And I don't think it's fair on Professor Jega. He has done so much to give this country elections that are seen to a very, very, very long way to be free and fair. But when we continue to reject his results, I'm putting it this way because he's the man at the helm of affairs. Do you understand? Yes.
Anyway.
And they shouldn't come and be sentimental about it. He's been emotional and sentimental about it as far as I'm concerned.
The funny thing is that the sentiments expressed by Ken and the sentiments expressed by Dino Melaye are also sentiments that have also been expressed. For instance, we had the local government election that took place in an ACN control state, and we also had almost the same kind of sentiment that were expressed by Dino Melaye being expressed by the other political parties. Now, the other political parties, that also goes to what he said, did not also accept the results that came out from Lagos State. So I think the issue is at the end of the day is that you must do your best to make sure that elections are seen significantly to have met with normal standard for holding elections.
Let us look at a summary of the results now, if I can have that slide. I mean, you look at the results, the PDP polling over 300,000. There you have it. Look at the difference now between the PDP and the ACN. Well, some people had predicted that the ACN was going to make a strong showing in this election, but just look at the difference, quite wide, or almost half.
It was a landslide, but the ACN won 3 local governments.
Yeah, they actually won 4 local government areas.
Oh, they won 4
out of 21.
At the last count, I thought it was 3 local governments. Okay, they won 4. The fact that they won 4 local governments clearly shows that these elections, to a very large extent, if you ask me, was 90% free and fair. the truth about it is that it's not by the campaigns you see on television, it's not by the hoods of people you get there that gives you the result. The people on ground who actually go to the polling booths to vote are the people that count. There is no way you tell me that accreditation was not done. If there was no accreditation, we wouldn't have known the exact number of people that turned out. Where did their votes now go to if you say there were scientific manipulations?
Could we say, Achike, for instance, you take a look at the figure of the AC and there are 159,913 votes. You think, the Audu factor came into play there, that the former governor must have gotten them that votes, because some people too had said the ACN was not going, had predicted before now that the ACN was not even going to do this well.
Well, it would be clear. I mean, Abubakar Audu has been governor in Kogi State and so on, and I think some people would point to, what they feel are remarkable achievements even during his administration. But this, we are talking of so many years down the line and so on. There is bound to be forgetfulness on the part of the people and so on. But I think that he has been able to do a lot of work with regards to this. I'm a little bit surprised because it's almost about 100% margin, and so one would have expected that the ACN would have going by the reports, especially the media reports as at early this morning and parts of yesterday and so on, that in some instances the report had it that both candidates were actually running neck and neck in some other places. But this eventual result clearly shows that the PDP seems to have really edged it significantly.
And too bad for the ANPP. What is happening? I mean, the ANPP also campaigned effectively in this election.
What I think,
moving, and then polling just 9,642 votes, quite poor. And look at what the CPC also got, 5,724.
What I think happened here is, like Achike said, it is obvious personality also was also a factor here. Audu was governor in 91. He was the first governor in 1999, up until 2003. And you just can't wish away a man like Audu. But you see, one thing I don't like about the ACN is, yes, they brought Audu into their fold, but you don't just come by ambush. Tinubu and all the others just came into Kogi and just think that you just uproot the PDP just like that, based on sentiments. As far as I was concerned, I was looking at this because I happen to have a very close relative in Kogi. Do you understand where I'm coming from? She lives there, and she clearly told me that, look, the groundswell opinion was Audu was not liked in Lokoja and all the other places. And I was wondering, because if you look at the media hype was such that you would have thought that it was going to be neck to neck. And again, there's this thing that the journalists must be very careful about. When we read the papers this morning, they were saying neck to neck. When you release early results from like these 4 local governments that he won, it will sound like it is neck to neck. But when you release results from other local governments, you will clearly see Audu was losing by wide margins. And Idris Wada went to every single local government. And look at Idris Wada. He's a very brilliant man. Well, watching him speak, I mean, so that should tell you how he was able to sell himself.
For you, Ken, would you say, before now, as I told the governor-elect there, he was relatively unknown.
Oh, of course,
politically.
I agree.
So you would say the incumbency factor also worked in his favor?
I said the incumbency factor worked, but you see, the only thing I didn't like about it was when they tried to ambush him, when they tried to blackmail him, by way of when they said he was medically unfit, going to this day to publish 6 pages of his medical report in 1976. I mean, I think we shouldn't play. That is politics of mudslinging.
How much do you think the incumbency? How much role did it play in this in swinging the election now in favor of Idris Wada?
Well, we all know that from at least from 1999, even before 1999, that the incumbency factor has always played a very serious role in either bringing back people back to power, or actually having incumbents also bringing their predecessors to power. And in virtually all the states, of course, if you look at the trend of things in this country and so on, most governors, we've not had governors who contest elections and then just lose out like that, even at the level of the presidency. So that has always been a factor. We talk about the various local government elections that took place all over the country, where we had, again, maybe as a result of some of the deficits on the part of the CX in most of the states in this country, where you have sometimes 100% return of political local government chairman and so on. These are some of the contradictions we've been talking about. But again, we know that incumbents have very large influence to play, very large role to play in
But if we talk about the incumbency factor, it depends on the perspective you're looking at it from. We remember that Theodore Oji was in prison when he won his election.
And the
Yes,
incumbency
factor played a role. But don't also forget that Mbadi Nuju lost his election as an incumbent.
Yeah, because
and Kwachala also lost.
In that case, he did not get the ticket.
What was Kwachala? Kwachala also lost in Bogi.
Yeah, in Borno.
Yes,
we're talking about a trend. We're talking about a trend.
Yes.
95% of the time.
Then I like that fact. 95%. But if the incumbent doesn't do well, there's always the possibility that the incumbent would also be defeated.
That is.
Yuguda was denied the ticket.